Okay, so because most of you don't really know who I am, uh, I want to introduce myself a little bit. And just so you know, my name is Rob Bruner. Most people in the program just call me Bruner or other things behind my back that I don't know, but that's all right. But most people just Bruner, hey Bruner, whatever you want to call me. But my name is Rob Bruner, and I'm a professor of practice, and I come from the construction industry. So most of my experience is in the construction industry. And I even worked with Professor Droji for a few years and worked in a lot of different industries. I worked in materials testing. I worked as a superintendent in residential construction, as a project manager in commercial construction, and as a project manager and division manager in heavy civil construction. So I got to see a wide array of the construction industry before coming into teach and before becoming a teacher. And being a teacher was something I actually never planned on doing. It was just something that I kind of fell into and have loved a lot. I was actually at one of my Christmas parties, and one of my old professors showed up and he said, "Hey, how would you like to teach a class?" And I said, sounds like fun. I'll try that. And so I started teaching and taught one class a semester for a couple of years while still working full time. And then ended up going full time because I loved it so much. So a lot of people say, professors are professors because those who can't do teach. You've probably heard that before, right? Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but that's not necessarily the case with me. And the reason I came to teach, it was because I loved teaching so much. Now, some people in the industry might argue with you. I don't know, maybe, but I love teaching and I love getting to know the students. So that's why I want to see your faces today. It's great to see most of your faces here, and hopefully we can get the same interaction. The reason I'm teaching on Zoom and not downstairs in the classroom or wherever the classroom is because I want you to see my face. I want you to see my expressions. This is something I'm passionate about. And I want you to understand where I'm coming from and be able to read all of the all of my facial expressions and everything that is nonverbal, all of my nonverbal communication. So that's why I'm doing this today. And hopefully you guys don't mind too much, but hopefully I can keep you engaged for these 50 minutes that we have today and Wednesday. This is something that you will hear again, actually, because I teach a lot of the upper division classes, and this is something that I give to the students again when they're getting ready to graduate. So you will hear this again, as long as you're getting ready to graduate, that is. But I know that all of you, I've heard good things about this class. All of you are good students. You're going to be graduating here in a couple years, maybe 4. But I want to talk to you today about leadership, because you're talking about the profile of the builder in your class. And when I started looking at all the traits and aspects of the profile of the builder that your book gives you, I started to see that, wow, this is a lot about leadership. And I love talking about leadership. And I think there's no better time to talk about leadership than when you first enter the program. Whether you're a transfer student or whether you're a freshman and you're straight out of high school, that doesn't matter. You all are going to be leaders someday. You all are going to be leaders someday. I want to get that across to you. The reason you're in this program is because you're becoming a leader within the industry. Whether you like it or not, you are going to be leading people as soon as you graduate. Not a little while after you graduate. As soon as you graduate, there are going to be people that you're leading. And so I want to talk to you about leadership, because you're going to practice this leadership all through your college career and then into the industry. And we're going to do it by looking at this profile of the builder. And I want to ask you a question today. And I want you to think about this question as we go through today and Wednesday. But this is a really important question for you to ask yourself. Maybe it's something that you put into your notes that you're being required to turn in. Is maybe an answer to this question. And the question is, are you willing to lead? Think about that. Are you willing to lead? You've probably never asked yourself that question before. Are you willing to lead? Well, it takes courage to lead. And I want to tell you a story about courage. There was a captain on a boat, and he was sitting down in his study, and his lieutenant came running down into him. And he said, Captain, there's 5 enemy vessels that are within distance of us that are coming in to attack us. And the captain stood up and courageously said, Lieutenant, can you go get me my red coat? And the lieutenant didn't really know why, but he ran and got him his red coat. And he put the red coat on, and he went up and he commanded a victory over these 5 vessels. And after it was all done and settled, the lieutenant came and asked him, Captain, why did you put on that red coat? And he said, well, I didn't want to have an injury where I started to bleed and have the men see that and have them be discouraged. I wanted them to know that I was standing in command, in leadership the whole time and not injured. So I wore the red coat. And so later on, a couple weeks later, the captain's down in his study again. And the lieutenant comes running down and he says, Captain, there is 15 enemy vessels on their way, and they're within distance to us. And the captain stood up and he said, Lieutenant, bring me my brown pants. Okay, I see a couple smiles. All right, that was a joke. You get brown pants. All right. Okay, so you thought I was being serious, but it was actually just a joke. Bring me my brown pants. Get it? Man, it's hard to tell jokes to nobody, just so you know. It's the hardest thing about teaching online is to tell jokes to a camera and just pretend people are laughing, because I tell a lot of stupid jokes. But seriously, leadership takes courage. Do you believe that leadership takes courage? And ask yourself the question, are you willing to lead? Are you willing to be courageous? Well, I want to talk to you today about leadership from a different perspective. Okay, different perspective here. I want to try to flip your idea of leadership on its head. No matter what you've learned about leadership, I want to turn that around. So forget everything you've learned about leadership. We're going to learn some new things over the next couple of days. I'm going to give you 12 things that I want you to write down, and I want you to remember over these next couple of days. And we're going to talk about each of those 12 things. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you throughout this whole thing, because if you're not challenged, then you're not growing. So I'm going to challenge you throughout this whole time over these next couple of days. And I'm going to challenge your perspective. And so the first thing I want to talk to you about, the first point, and this is probably the most important point, because I've heard that students only listen for about 15 minutes and then they tune out. Hopefully that's not you. But if you only listen for 15 minutes, then you'll get to hear this. Because this is the one thing that if you only remember one thing, I want you to take this away from today. Okay, and point number 1 is be a servant leader. Be a servant leader. Okay, your book talks about personal relationships as being a big part of construction, and it is. It is one of the biggest parts of construction. If you are good at relationships, you're going to go far in the industry. Lots of people can do construction. Lots of people can get the job done. But it's the people who are good at relationships, that have these great personal relationships with people, that really get to those top levels within the industry. So you need to work on relationships. It's a relationship-based business. You will be surprised how much of a relationship-based business it is. And someday you're going to be sitting in the industry and you're going to be like, man, Bruner told me that one time. I didn't believe him, but I believe him now. But it is a relationship-based industry. You can do the best work in the world, but if you're bad at relationships, you are not going to do very well in this industry. And the best way, or one of the best ways to be good at relationships and to cultivate these relationships, is through servant leadership. Okay? I've got another story for you. Okay? And this one doesn't have a punchline, just so you know, but it does have a point. Okay? And it's an old tale. It's a tale of a forest. And this forest was looking for a leader. Okay? This forest was looking for somebody to manage the forest, the everyday operations of the forest. And so they went around and they looked at all the different trees, and they saw this apple tree, and this apple tree produced lots and lots of fruit, great fruit, fed all the animals in the forest, and did a great job. And so they said, well, that'd be a great leader. So what, Mr. Apple Tree, would you be the leader of the forest? And the apple tree said, don't you see, I'm really busy here making apples. You know, if I'm not making apples, then who's going to do it? And who's going to feed all the animals of the forest? And who's going to take care of this? And they said, okay. So they looked around some more, and they saw a peach tree. And this peach tree made the best peaches. So good. So good. You want to make some peach cobbler out of that stuff. Good peaches, all right? Fed all the animals. And they asked the peach tree, would you be the leader of the forest? And the peach tree said, don't you see how much work I'm doing here? I've got to make all these peaches or the animals will starve. I can't take time to lead. They were not willing to be a leader. And so the forest kept looking around, and it saw this thorn bush. And they said, well, the thorn bush isn't doing much. Hey, thorn bush, would you be our leader for the forest? And the thorn bush said, I've got nothing better to do except like strangle trees and, you know, snag small animals type of thing. Sure, I'll be the leader. And so the thorn bush became the leader. And shortly after the thorn bush became the leader, it started to wind itself around these trees, started to wind itself around the apple tree, started to wind itself around the peach tree, started to block off its light, started to take away its nutrients. And all of a sudden, the apple tree and the peach tree weren't making fruit anymore and weren't feeding the animals. So all of the animals left the forest, and the forest slowly started to die. The reason I tell you that is because it's a lot like what sometimes happens in our industry, where the people who are most productive are unwilling to lead because they've got too much to do, doing a great job at what they do. And the people who are not doing a great job end up becoming the leader because they have this natural want of power. And they start to strangle out the people who are producing the fruit for the company. Strangle them in micromanagement and finding out like all the intricacies of it all, instead of serving. Instead of giving them more nutrients, giving them more sunlight, taking care of them, finding them water when they need it, right? Instead of doing those things and giving them what they need, they're strangling them in micromanagement, and companies fail. So I ask you again, are you willing to lead? And are you willing to lead with servant leadership, where you're giving the people that you're leading the things they need to be successful? Are you giving them what they need? Are you asking them, hey, what can I do for you today? What can I do to help you be successful? Servant leadership is a timeless concept. It's been around forever. But the term itself was coined by a guy named Robert Greenleaf. And I'm going to read you a quote from Robert Greenleaf's Servant Leadership, The Servant as a Leader. It was an essay, and it was first published in 1970, and that's where the term was coined. He says, the servant leader is a servant first. It begins with the natural feeling that one wants to serve first. Then conscious choice brings one to aspire to lead. That person is sharply different from the one who is leader first. Perhaps because of the need to assuage an unusual power drive or to acquire material possessions. The leader first and the servant first are two extreme types. Between them, there are all shadings and blends that are part of an infinite variety of human nature. Here's an important part. The difference manifests itself in the care taken by the servant first to make sure that other people's highest priority needs are being served. The best test and most difficult to administer is, do those served grow as persons? Do they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants? And what is the effect on the least privileged in society? Will they benefit or at least not be further deprived? So a servant leader is one that is looking to help the people that they are serving. And every year I work with groups, groups of students. And every year these groups of students, either in the ASC Reno competition, which you guys have probably heard about already, these groups, these teams, at some point during the semester will usually come to me and say, things are just not working out. The leader or the captain of the team will come to me and say, I don't know what to do. Nobody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, and everybody's got other stuff going on. And I don't know how to get them to do what I want them to do. And I asked that captain, well, what are you doing for them? And usually there's some silence just like that. But what are you doing for the people that you're leading? When you say that the scheduler isn't getting the schedule done, have you gone to them and asked them, well, what can I do to help you get that schedule done? What do you need from me? Can I give you something? Do you need something else? Do you need some help? Do you need some advice? Do you need me to get some mentorship for you? Have you asked them that? When the estimator says, well, I haven't got the estimate done yet. I've been so busy. And you say, well, what's the hardest part of it? What can I help you with? That is a totally different thing than somebody who steps in the room and says, well, do you got this done? Do you got this done? Do you got this done? Do you got this? Nobody's got anything done? Well, what are we going to do? That's not leadership, okay? Anybody can order people to do things. But helping people to be more autonomous, to get things done, to make the decisions that affect them, that's what a servant leader is doing, stepping in to be that person, to help everybody else along. Okay, hopefully this is making sense to you, because this is the most important point of the 12, is be a servant leader. Put the needs of others first. When it comes down to it, put the needs of others first. Not your own needs, not your need to show your power drive, your power trip. Put the needs of others first. And then, you know what's going to happen? When they're successful, you're successful. When your team is successful, you're successful. When your team on the project that you're in charge of is successful, you're successful. Okay? You're helping them to be successful. But in doing that, you're being successful. So why wouldn't you want to lead that way? Because the other way ends up with them not being successful and you not being successful. Be a servant first. Okay? The second point. Second thing. I'm watching my time here. I don't want to keep you guys too late. The second thing is carry yourself like a winner, because you are. Carry yourself like a winner, because you are. Now, for some of you, that's really easy to do. And for some of you, that's not easy to do. And so I encourage you that if this is something that's not easy for you to do, let's work on it through this college experience that you're getting into. Carry yourself like a winner, because you are. Be confident. When leaders lack confidence, followers lack commitment. I want you to write that down. When leaders lack confidence, followers lack commitment. I mean, if you were following somebody into battle and they said, well, I don't really know what's going to happen. I don't know really what the plan is. We all might die. Would you be all that committed to the end goal? I mean, ask yourself, really, if somebody had said that to you and you're following them into battle, would you be committed to that goal? Probably not. I'm seeing a lot of you shaking your heads right now. Probably not. When leaders lack confidence, followers lack commitment. It's about knowing you're going to be successful. But there's a big difference between confidence and arrogance, okay, and confident humility. You need to be humbly confident. Now, that may be a little bit hard to understand, because a lot of times our confidence comes out as we are not humble. But I'm going to explain that to you a little bit more. Every year we get students that come into this program who are a little more than confident. Okay, that student who's pretty sure they know everything. I know nobody in this class is like that, because I've heard great things about this class, but you know, most classes have that one person who thinks they know everything. And if you haven't seen anybody else in the class that thinks they know everything, you might want to start looking at yourself. I don't know. But I know I've heard good things about this class. I know nobody is like that. But hopefully, when we have somebody like that, we have a couple of years that we can help change them, help guide them in a direction of confident humility. Confidence is not a bad thing, but you need to be humble. You might be a person who actually knows a lot, but that doesn't mean that you need to be walking around like that. Okay, these people need to be confidently humble. Carry yourself like a winner, because you are, but be confidently humble. You know, if we're not able to change that person from the prideful ways before they leave this program, the industry usually does. And that is painful. And we've seen it from the outside perspective on multiple students. But hopefully there's nobody like that here. But it leads me to my third point. Okay? Walk in genuine humility. Walk in genuine humility. Be humble or be humbled. Okay, I want you to write that one down too. Be humble or be humbled. I know that's Twitter worthy, right? But what that means is those folks who leave the program and they're still not being humbled, the industry is going to humble them. Unfortunately, we've seen it before where the industry gets a hold of these people. And yeah, they got a job because they actually are very bright and they have a passion for the industry, but they haven't realized how to be confidently humble yet. And so they get humbled and they get let go from that job because the people can't stand to be around them. And they're wearing on all of the people that have actually been in the industry for 30 years and actually do know something about the industry. And then they go to another company, and if they're not humbled in that company, then they get humbled again and they have to go to another company. And so I just encourage you to do some self-reflection and say, I want to carry myself like a winner because I am. Because I am. I'm in the best construction education that is in the entire United States. You should be confident, okay? You should be carrying yourself like a winner because NAU's construction management program is outstanding, top of the line. And you're here and you're going to get a degree from this program. And so carry yourself like a winner. But at the same time, be humble. Be confident, but be humble. All right? In your book, it talks about the profile of the builder being extremely proud of their physical strength and stamina as a profile of a builder. And yeah, confident and proud of being of your physical strength and stamina is great. Of course they are. I mean, they do great things in the industry. I was talking to the seniors the other day who are getting ready to graduate, and they were talking about, kind of the perspective of what people think about them getting this construction management degree. And I asked them, well, what do your friends say about it? And they say, well, they think it's a really dirty industry, and they think it's a dangerous industry, and that I'm out there swinging a hammer. Well, a couple of those things are right. I mean, you are probably going to get your boots dirty at one point or another. It is a dangerous industry. It is dangerous. They do dangerous things. Building buildings is not a safe thing to do, and that's why safety is so important in the construction industry. But while that's true, we can also be proud of the fact that we're not just, dirty. We also dress up. We also have to wear suits sometimes. We also have to negotiate with billionaires. We also drive really nice trucks, or maybe it's a Ferrari, whatever your taste is, you're going to be able to do that someday. And we're also going to, have these $1 million decisions that we're making almost every single day. I would say that's a pretty big deal. And no, we're not swinging hammers, but we are making extremely important decisions. And so you can be proud of that. Be proud of your construction industry. Be proud that you're building America. Be proud that you're probably going to get paid more than most every other student in this entire university when you graduate. Yeah, that's true. Be proud of that because it's hard work. Okay? And for those of you who are not construction majors that are in CM 120 right now, I only have one thing to say. We only allow people that want lots of job offers for high-paying jobs to be construction management majors. And so if that's not really your thing, then, that's okay. But maybe we'll convince you by the end of these couple of days that you need to change your major. So it is an incredible industry to be in. Be proud of it. I want all of you to be proud of it. My fourth point, because we do have some time left here, my fourth point, and a very important one. I keep saying that because they're all important, right? I wouldn't have narrowed it down to 12, not 11, not 13, 12, if they weren't important. My fourth point, though, is make no little plans. Make no little plans. Make big plans. And craftspeople are proud of what they do. When a craftsperson looks at a set of plans for a high rise, they don't say, well, man, I don't know if I can do that. No, they say, bring it on. This is exciting. I'm going to build the biggest building you've ever seen. I'm going to build the longest bridge you've ever seen, and it's going to be beautiful. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it one little piece at a time. Yeah, when I look at that high rise, it's huge. But I know this little piece, which builds on this little piece, and I know this little piece. They're not making little plans. They want to build the biggest, the best, the most expensive, the most beautiful. And I would encourage you that no matter what industry you're going into, whether it's the construction industry, whether you're going into design, whatever it might be, make no little plans. Make no little plans. Now, I have a quote I want to read you, and this is by Daniel Hudson Burnham, and he lived between 1846 and 1912. He was an American architect and urban planner, the master builder that you guys have been talking about. He was a city planner for Chicago and Washington, D.C. He also designed a lot of famous buildings like the Flatiron Building and Union Station. And he had this quote, and you'll see this quote hanging in our lab right over here. He says, make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood, and probably themselves will not be realized. Make big plans. Aim high in hope and work, remembering that a noble, logical diagram once recorded will never die, but long after we are gone be a living thing, asserting itself with ever-growing insistency. Remember that our sons and our grandsons are going to do things that would stagger us. He's talking about you. Our sons, our grandsons, I'll throw in granddaughters, are going to do things that will stagger us. We don't want to be doing the same thing that he was doing back in 1902. We're making big plans to move forward, to do things better. And you're going to do that. So I encourage you, make no little plans, make big plans. And unfortunately, there's one thing that holds us back from making big plans. I want you to think about right now, what's the main thing that holds people back from making big plans? Think about that. What's held you back from making big plans? And I'm sure a lot of you right now are thinking to yourself, it's fear. Fear holds people back from making big plans. Fear of failure, fear of rejections, fear of what people close to you might say about it. Well, what if that person laughs? Well, what if that person tells me I'm not good enough? What if that person tells me I'm not smart enough? I only got a B in CM 120. I didn't get an A. So maybe I shouldn't make big plans. Or maybe there's that person from your past that told you you weren't smart enough. You weren't good enough. You weren't strong enough. You weren't the right person. You weren't the right male or female for that particular position. Maybe that person was in your past. But I want to tell you that fear, that fear that was created in you for making big plans, you need to step over the top of it. Your greatest success stands on the other side of your fear. I want you to write that down. But say, instead of your, write my. My greatest success stands on the other side of my fear. I want you to write that down in your notes. I'm going to say it again. My greatest success stands on the other side of my fear. Because once you get over that fear and you start making big plans, that's when great things are going to happen in your life. When you start pointing to those big plans and you say, that's what I'm going to do. All right. So over the next couple of days before Wednesday, I want you to be thinking about that. Make no little plans. What's my big plan? What's my big plan? Maybe you write that down in your notes. Maybe you write that down in your notes. Okay? So I'm going to leave it there today at that point, our point number 4, and we'll move on Wednesday, and we'll get through the rest of them, I promise. I won't spend as much time on each of them, but we'll get through all 12. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Wednesday. Thank you.